Hello everyone, and thank you for attending today's webinar, Service Provider AI Survey 2022 Results, Accelerating AI Deployment in Data Centers and Mobile Networks, sponsored by Coresight and Ericsson. Before we begin, I wanted to cover a few housekeeping items. On the left-hand side of your screen is a Q&A. If you have any questions during the webcast, you can type your question into the Q&A box and submit your questions to our speakers. All questions will be saved, so if we don't get to answer you, we may follow up via email. At the bottom of your audience console are multiple application widgets you can use. If you have any technical difficulties, please click on the yellow help widget. Here you can find answers to common questions. A copy of today's slide deck is available for download in the green resources widget. Towards the end of today's presentation, please complete the survey on the bottom of your screen. It will only take 1 minute to complete, and your feedback is extremely helpful. An on-demand version of the webcast will be available about 1 day after the event and can be accessed using the same audience link that was sent to you earlier today. I would now like to turn the event over to Heavy Reading's Analyst at Large, Simon Stanley.
Thank you, and hello from me as well. As was said, I'm Simon Stanley, Analyst at Large at Heavy Reading, and today I'm joined by Matt Zenderhap, who is Vice President of Interconnection Strategy and Product Management at Coresight, and also Ao Damola, who is Director of AI and ML Strategy at Ericsson for North America. I just want to ask each of them just to say a few words about themselves and the company that they work for. So perhaps we can start with Matt.
Yeah, thanks, Simon, and thanks for having me. So Matt Sinderhoff, I'm Vice President of Interconnection Strategy and Product Management at Coresight. Coresight, we build, own, and operate highly interconnected data centers throughout the United States. We currently have 29 data centers spread across 10 different markets. And as of the beginning of 2022, we are now a subsidiary of American Tower. And, you know, throughout when we go through this webinar, maybe I'll be able to talk a little bit about that in terms of kind of the confluence that we're seeing between edge data centers and Coresight's traditional core facilities. So thanks for having me. Happy to be here. Thanks.
Thanks, Matt. And now Ao.
Hi, everybody. It's a privilege to be presenting here. My name is Ao Damola. I work in the Ericsson North American organization, focusing on the AI and ML strategy. Ericsson is a provider of communication technologies for the service provider space. We're a global company present in over 188 countries, and we provide all the G technologies from the 2G all the way to the 5G, and looking forward to providing 6G technologies. And I'm very excited to be here and looking forward to the discussion.
Okay, thanks very much. And just to let you know, we'll start today's presentation with a short introduction to the webinar and the survey on which it's based, before going on to review the results of the survey. These results and the analysis cover 4 key areas: the AI opportunity, the current AI landscape, the challenges to implementing AI, and the way forward for AI. In this last section, we'll discuss some of the solutions and trends to implementing AI technology within data centers. We'll finish with a short Q&A session. So please send in any questions you have for our speakers as we go through. And we also have 2 polls planned during the webinar, so please take part in those polls as well. Now, this webinar and also a white paper are based on an exclusive survey conducted by Heavy Reading during May and June this year. The survey received 84 responses from individuals working at operators, with 48% of those in the US, 26% in Europe, and 26% spread across the rest of the world. The questionnaire itself was developed by Heavy Reading with input from Coresight and Ericsson. For this webinar, we're focusing on some key findings from the report. If you'd like to see more details on the survey, then please look at the report, which is available through the resources button on the webinar console, and will also be available online. The responses to the report included 39% that work at converged operators with both fixed and mobile networks, and 30% that work at pure play mobile operators. We also received some responses from content provider or cable operators and cloud or web service providers. 32% of the responses were from operators with more than $5 billion in annual revenue, and a further 18% with revenues between $1 billion and $5 billion. The mix of responses allows us to pull out the results for the largest operators versus smaller operators, and also the results for mobile operators with reasonable confidence. So for this first question, we asked, what are the biggest potential benefits of using artificial intelligence, AI, over the next 5 years? We allowed multiple options to be selected, giving a wide spread of results. The top 3 benefits identified were improving customer experience and limiting churn, improving network and/or IT performance, and driving innovation and revenue for new businesses. Savings in both OPEX and CAPEX for network and IT operations and planning were also selected by 30% or more. So for this one, I'd just like to start with Matt from CoreSite. And Matt, I guess these top benefits from using AI really cover 3 general areas: improving performance, increasing revenue, and reducing costs. What are you seeing in each of these areas?
Yeah, so if we look at what's really driving AI, it comes down to making business decisions based on data analysis, right? And then how quickly and accurately you're able to interpret that information. And that is what is going to help drive those top 3 response categories that we see here. Whether it be utilizing customer insights to inform decision-making or improving consistency of your product offering. And then, as we all know, our finance departments are always asking for ways that we can trim our budgets, right? Well, through automation and process improvement via AI, I see that as a way to get some of those OPEX and CAPEX savings. But one thing that kind of stands out to me a little bit on this slide is the improved security. That's one that I expected would have been a little bit higher, and it's one that I anticipate will kind of move up as AI becomes more prevalent throughout businesses. Because as we live more our data lives more in a hybrid environment, it's going to be critical to be able to identify some of those security threats, and I really think that's going to be top of mind for really many of our IT professionals out there.
Okay, great. Now, Ayo, what do you see as the most important benefits from AI?
So what I'd like to highlight is that the customer experience is pretty consistent, as something that is mentioned by both customers and partners as an area where AI can make a huge difference. I'd like to also to note that the network performance improvement is pretty much tightly connected to improvement of customer experience. So those kind of go hand in hand. Maybe I'd like to just kind of touch upon OPEX savings. I think there's a certain misconception in the industry at large that OPEX savings or OPEX reduction actually means automating human jobs and reducing headcount. That is not actually what we've seen. What we've seen, for example, is a scenario where, in fact, AI is able to improve the effectiveness of how people work today. So an example is when you have a remote tower location that experiences a catastrophic fault. And so that requires the immediate dispatch of a maintenance crew. That immediate dispatch of a maintenance crew basically means that they have to drop everything they're doing right now and out of schedule, move very quickly to fix the problem. Now with AI, we're able to do things like preemptive maintenance. And so that way we can see already in advance that certain indicators show that that site might go down, but we have some time to do that. And hence, from an emergency dispatch, we can change the way of working to more of a scheduled dispatch of the maintenance crew. And thereby, what we've seen personally is that it's a cost savings of up to 30%. So basically, what we're seeing is the OpEx reduction is definitely something achievable, and it does not really entail headcount reduction.
Okay, great. And going on to the next question now. So this next question we asked, what is, I guess, a very general question. So how do you expect your use of AI and machine learning, ML, to change over the next 5 years? And in this case, we got a very clear response, with 82% saying they expect their use of AI and ML to increase over the next 5 years. And an additional 17% expect their AI and ML use to remain flat. Nobody said that they would expect their use of AI and ML to decrease. Now, Ayo, were you surprised by the size of this majority expecting their use of AI and ML to increase?
Actually, I was not surprised, but I would definitely say that this is a very welcome finding. What it shows is that the sentiment towards AI has changed, and we're already seeing that from our discussions, that the discussions are getting more mature. There's definitely now an understanding of how AI can be used. So basically, what are the capabilities and what are the limitations of a technology, and that helps us to drive constructive dialogues. For example, in the dialogues, we now have oftentimes that structure where the customers bring a problem, but they also bring the data with which that problem could begin to be tackled. Where we would hope to get to is that not only do we get the data, but we actually get labeled data. But overall, I think this is a very encouraging feedback for AI vendors like Ericsson, and we would definitely work with our customers to provide them, whatever AI solutions are required to fit their business needs.
Okay, and Matt, how do these results match with your expectations and experience?
Yeah, so very similar to AO there. Not surprising at all. But encouraging as well. Because we're seeing AI increase in every part of our lives. Whether it be as consumers, streaming services recommending new shows, movies, etc., for us to watch, or banks notifying us of potential fraud, or even a chat box when you log onto a website and you're looking for some support. That bot that's working there is a form of AI. So even though we may not realize how often we interact with AI, it's in every part of our lives, and this is only going to increase, I believe, as businesses continue to get smarter on how they can utilize their data and how much data is really available for them to gather information from.
Okay, great, thanks. So going on to the next result. So this next chart shows the impact respondents expect AI and ML to have on key technology deployments. The results suggest that the biggest impacts will be on cloud deployments, smart cities, and edge computing. And 5G, security, and IoT are also expected to see significant impact from AI and ML. Going back to you, Matt, looking at cloud in particular, what sort of developments are you seeing, and how are these impacting deployments?
Yeah. So some companies out there, they're going to be able to develop and utilize kind of AI in-house. But really, for the most part, I think we're going to see most customers rely on third parties, including some of these public cloud providers, to assist in some way, because it can be expensive to invest in your own equipment and programming to interpret the massive amounts of data many of these companies have access to. So ensuring you have the right hybrid architecture in place to take advantage of seamlessly moving your workloads between your own machines as well as your digital ecosystem, such as cloud service providers, is going to be critical. And as we look at some of the use cases around smart cities, smart factories, autonomous vehicles, even the metaverse, these are all use cases where network performance and speed is going to be critical. So making sure you're processing data at the edge, as we see here in the edge computing, will be heavily influenced by AI.
Okay, great. And AO, looking now at 5G deployments in particular, what impact are you seeing from the use of AI and ML?
Yeah, so we definitely see a lot of opportunity for automation in 5G, leveraging AI. So 5G is it's a more complex technology than the previous Gs, right? So than 2G, 3G, or 4G. The reason is that there are more devices, right? So you have IoT devices like connected sensors, connected cars, drones, etc. You also have just the nature of the network. It's becoming more virtualized, right? Not only do you have physical network functions, but you actually also have virtual network functions. And then you have a multitude of new types of services that the service providers would like to offer. So to be able to manage and orchestrate this network, you definitely need technologies like AI. And so what we see is that a way to address this is through what we call intelligent RAN automation, which addresses both the network evolution, so basically how you use AI to do things like site selection or capacity management. We also have an area of solutions around network deployment that focus both on the provisioning and the lifecycle management, as well as the optimization of the network, right? Where you have different autonomous functions that optimize things like customer experience and improve the return on investment. And then finally, how do you take care of outages, right? So network healing from a perspective of service continuity and also the resolution of incidents. So all that together is how we definitely see the use of AI in 5G.
Okay, thanks, AO. And go on to the last question in this section. So artificial intelligence covers a wide range of technology capabilities that can benefit businesses. So we asked our respondents to select which AI technologies are most important for their business. The top three were pattern and anomaly detection, prediction, and root cause analysis. So I'm just wondering how are your customers using these key technologies, and I think also two upcoming technologies, intent-based management and closed-loop automation.
Thanks for this question. So I think the general comment is that several of these technologies mentioned have been around for a while, and the ecosystem, including Ericsson, including partners, and also our customers have been applying these, to address their different needs. But I would really like to highlight a new entrant on this list, and that is the intent-based management. This is relatively a new concept, and Ericsson has been driving the standardization of this, including in the TM Forum, in 3GPP, in Etsy, and actually now contributions are being made in ORAN. And I think the simple way to think about this is intent-based management actually allows you to create a self-driving network, right? And what that does is that it reduces the complexity of introducing changes to the network and also improves the performance of the network because now you're able to do closed loop automation. So I think the simple example is, if we draw a parallel to the car industry, right, where you have a self-driving car. Well, here you have a self-driving network. And what that does is that it allows the operators in a similar way as, the driver of the self-driving car no longer has to control the car. Similarly, the manual processes are now fully automated, and now the service providers can focus on really the business outcomes or the intent. So we're very excited about this technology, and I think with time we'll begin to see that it will increase probably higher up in this list.
Okay, great. And that now brings us to the end of that section, and we also to the first of our two polls. And what we'd like to ask you is which of the following AI data center use cases have you deployed or do you plan to deploy in the data center? And we've put down cyber threat detection, predictive maintenance, workload management, cooling management, and power management. So please pick one or more of the options and then click Submit Answer. And we'll go to the results fairly soon. So if you could start voting, we should be able to see the results coming in, and we'll go to those fairly soon. I just want to let you know that the webinar today is being archived, so you will be able to go back and view anything that you want to see again, or if any of your colleagues were unable to join us today, they'll be able to go on the Light Reading website and look up the webinar. And also to remind you, we are having a Q&A session at the end. So if you've got some questions for AO and Matt, then please send those in. Okay, so we've got some results coming in. I'll give you just a few more moments to answer there, and then we'll go to the answers. So, okay, so I think we can go to those now. So they're just coming up on your screen. And I think I was going to go to Matt for some thoughts on this. We can see pretty much cyber threat detection, predictive maintenance, and workload management having some good support there. Is that sort of in line with what you're seeing?
Yeah, and I think that first one, the cyber threat detection, that goes back to my previous comment. So I think our audience here is kind of in alignment with my earlier comments, where I thought that based on the survey that went out, I expected security to kind of move up the list in the coming years. So, that makes sense. And then, the predictive maintenance, this goes back to some of what AO was saying, where, the more we can get ahead of issues, it's not all about, when we're talking about OpEx savings, reducing headcount, it's about becoming more efficient and getting ahead of potential issues. And I think that, we see that with the predictive maintenance, and, it kind of ties in to the last two, the cooling and power management as well. I think that predictive maintenance and those last two all can kind of go hand in hand, and is something that, we're utilizing here at CoreSite, and, I think many of our customers are as well.
Okay, great. And AO, any thoughts on these results?
No, I'm actually pretty much consistent with my expectation. I think just to add to what Matt said, I think the workload management, that's definitely an interesting area. It talks about how you move workloads around between the edge and the central location. So that's definitely something that we'll begin to see more and more. And then on the last piece, the power management, actually, I see that over time, this will probably go up a little bit in importance, because it's really all about sustainability. How do you apply AI to improve your energy consumption of the different elements in the network? This is a huge area for our service provider customers, and we know that most of them have targets towards sustainability and CO2 emissions. And so this is definitely an area of further importance going forward.
Okay, great. Well, let's go on now to the next section. So for this first question in this section, here we're looking at the current AI landscape. So for this question, we asked respondents about the state of AI deployment in their organization today. And the results show that AI is being deployed really in many areas. For each of these specific AI workloads, at least 50% said their company has already deployed or is deploying this workload within 1 year. The most deployments seem to be in IT and cloud operations, network operations, and customer care. So going to Matt, does this sort of match with what your customers are telling you, especially for the IT and cloud operations?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's some surprising ones in here to me as well. But if we look at these top few around cloud and network planning and operations, there are parts of the business that can be extremely variable in terms of usage, spikes due to micro and macro influencers, cost implications, et cetera. So being able to put some intelligence around it to improve your business decisions on how to manage a hybrid deployment, or knowing when you need to dynamically add capacity to your network to stay ahead of those traffic spikes, is what is going to help you save money, yes, but in the end, it provides a better end customer experience. The one that's a little surprising to me on the list is the marketing and sales. And me being a product person, I would kind of lump product into that bucket as well. But I would have expected that to be higher, both from already deployed and deploying within 1 year. The amount of customer data that we can gather from our websites, sales trends, conversion rates we're seeing from marketing campaigns is really what drives our revenue, but also is an informer for operations and supply chain and network planning. So they all kind of work harmoniously together, or they should. Unfortunately, I think businesses has a tendency to operate in silos when it comes to information sharing, and may not make the connection between different departments within their business. So the marketing and sales one is one that stood out to me a little bit, and I would expect that one to move up a little bit, but all of these kind of inform each other in some way.
Okay, and AO, so what's your view on the results, and I guess for network operations and network planning?
Yeah, so I think these data points pretty much align with our view. Basically, as an enterprise, Ericsson deploys a lot of these use cases internally, and we've seen also pretty much similar maturity levels as shown in these responses. Also, these use cases actually reflected in our portfolio offering, so our customers definitely can take advantage of that. What I'll just kind of maybe mention also is that there's a connection. We see a very tight connection, right, between the network use cases and then that there's an impact to the use cases like customer experience management, the OpEx, and then the CapEx saving.
Okay, great. So let's go on to the next slide. So next we asked about strategies for employing AI, and in particular whether companies have a company-wide strategy, have different strategies in place for different parts of their organization, or maybe really have no AI strategy that covers the whole company. And the results suggest that service providers are likely to need some assistance with these AI strategies. 64% are yet to develop a single company-wide strategy for AI. 45% have different AI strategies for different parts of the organization, and 36% already have a single company-wide strategy for AI. So AO, what are your thoughts on the results, and also this suggestion that many companies are still looking to develop strategies for AI?
Yes, I'd like to just focus our attention on this second bullet about the 64% of respondents who mentioned that they're yet to develop a single company-wide strategy for AI. And then when I try to correlate that to the earlier data points that we saw where, 82% of respondents see an increase in the uptake of AI over the 5 years, we see a disconnect, unfortunately. What this basically means is that there are AI activities ongoing within the service provider space, but they don't seem to be coordinated, unfortunately. That means that there's likely a lot of duplication of efforts. Unfortunately, there probably are unnecessary costs. So basically, there's lots of inefficiencies in how things are going on right now. And what we see that there's an opportunity. There's an opportunity for the operators to kind of adopt a more end-to-end AI strategy by working together with vendors such as Ericsson and others who have AI solutions. And so to, first of all, leverage the solutions that the vendors already have to address their multitude of business goals. So I think that's probably a potential way forward to resolve this.
Okay, great. So the shift to AI, using AI can be a big step for many companies. So we were interested to ask about the biggest challenges in implementing AI. The results highlighted some key challenges, including high costs for development and deployment, budget constraints, and internal collaboration. Interestingly, there were some significant differences between the largest organizations, so those with over $5 billion revenue, and smaller organizations. Budget constraints were seen as key challenges for smaller organizations, while internal collaboration and lack of access to harmonized data were seen as key challenges for the largest organizations. I guess, AO, how do you see these results, and what also do you see as the main challenges?
Yeah, I think this is a little bit of an unfortunate situation. There are probably several reasons for some of these challenges, and one was actually what was highlighted in the previous slide, the lack of the end-to-end company-wide strategy. Another area is unfortunately the lack of highly skilled data scientists who also understand the network domain, because a lot of the service provider components are kind of built on network pieces. And so that's one piece. The other aspect is that the complexity of the data in the telecom network. So telecom network data is highly specialized, right? You have data coming off of different types of network equipment, the radio nodes, the core nodes, the transport nodes. These are actually pretty different. And each data set coming off this data, of this network elements requires a certain knowledge of the domain before you can actually apply the AI to solve a problem. And so what we feel is that we'll definitely welcome to kind of work together with our customers to assist them by leveraging both our R&D organization, our services organization, who have both the data science competence, but also very deep network domain knowledge to address the various problems of our customers. The other aspect is that of course, we're very open to working together with our customers in leveraging existing solutions that we already have, and we have literally hundreds of different AI use cases developed, and many more in the development coming. And so we really look forward to working with our customers to alleviate some of these challenges.
Okay, great. Thanks, Ayo. Going on now. So next, we asked how important respondents felt low latency networks, interconnections, and cloud networking are as part of their AI and ML infrastructure architecture. And in this case, 81% said that low latency networks, interconnection, and cloud networking is either critical or very important for their AI and ML infrastructure. So going to Matt, does that sort of match what you're seeing?
Yeah, I think absolutely it does. And that's a big number where 81% consider it either very important or critical to their business, and it's only going to become more so as we have a lot of these latency sensitive applications that are going to be part of our everyday lives going forward. So, and this is true across the board with businesses in today's world, and it's not necessarily unique to AI, especially when you're looking for AI to provide, those real-time decisions that could be mission critical for your business, such as, the smart factories, smart cities, autonomous vehicles, et cetera. When we're talking about this amount of data, it makes sense that we're seeing companies moving their AI workloads from on-prem to off-prem, because they need to be as close as possible to their digital ecosystem, whether that be cloud providers, their AI partners, vendors, and then ultimately their end consumers. So being closer to the data processing and consumers is what reduces that latency, and is one of the reasons why we're seeing more businesses move to those off-prem to improve those latency stats.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. Ayo, what are your thoughts?
I definitely agree with this statement. I think that ultimately low latency is really all about the speed of the reaction. And so the faster the reaction time, the more effective the problem at hand could be addressed. And so we definitely see when we look at this problem space, right, we look at this from a perspective of the time frames in which the control loops work, right? So we look at the weeks, the days, the hours, the minutes, the seconds, milliseconds, down to microseconds. And so, going forward, we definitely would love to work together with our customers on, the more low latency type of use cases. For example, there's a use case on AI and RAN, which works on a microsecond time frame. That enables, a network, and that is able to better serve end users and then provide, a higher return on investment.
Okay, great. Some good points there. So moving on, AI as a service allows companies to leverage AI without making huge investment in AI hardware and software. So we asked, how is your organization willing to leverage AI as a service? And the results really suggest interest in AI as a service. Significant interest in AI as a service. So 45% are willing to leverage AI both on-premise and as a service, 38% are willing to leverage AI as a service as support for AI platform and use case development, and only 8% said they're not willing to leverage AI as a service. And I'm just wondering, Ao, does that sort of match with what you're seeing?
Yes, it absolutely does. What it informs me is a couple of things. The first is that the service providers are willing to leverage AI as a service. And then the second piece is that they're actually pretty flexible in the deployment options as listed by the different answer choices here. I think what we have definitely is, a bunch of different AI as a service offerings in the area of network management, enterprise services, cloud and IT, network design and optimization, and also energy efficiency. And as I earlier mentioned, energy efficiency is definitely an area that we see more and more kind of interest level, because everybody is trying to reduce the bills, the energy bills, and also reduce emissions. So I think in general, I think AI as a service will definitely is definitely here to stay.
Okay, great. Matt, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. As we talk about, like, anything as a service is a strategy and business model that companies are utilizing in many different arenas, and AI is no different. These top two are what we're seeing across the board from our customers. They're looking for a digital ecosystem to support their own platforms, and they're doing so through these hybrid architectures because it makes sense to keep some workloads within their own deployments, but have the ability to take advantage of best-in-class AI as a service partners, wherever that might make sense.
Okay, great. We want to stay on this topic for our second poll. So what we'd like to ask you in this case is, what is your most important concern with AI as a service? Is it security and privacy? Is it feature availability? Or is it pricing? Or if none of these, then select none of the above. So in this case, just make one selection and then click on the submit answer. So I'll give you a few moments to give your answers on this one. And while we're just waiting for those results to come in, I just want to remind you that we are having a Q&A session at the end, and we have got some good questions already, but do keep sending in those questions for Matt and Ao. And just to remind you, the webinar will be archived. And I'll be going to Ao in a moment for his thoughts on the results that we can see coming in. So I'll just give you a few more moments to submit those results. If you haven't done so already, then please vote now, and then we'll go on to the results. Okay, so the results should be coming up. So, we've got about 14%, none of the above. So there are some concerns here. So security and privacy, feature availability, and pricing are all relatively similar. I'm just wondering, Ao, does that sort of match what you're seeing in the market?
I think this is an interesting set of results. Definitely, we've heard pricing being a concern and issue. I think security and privacy has traditionally been an issue with as a service. As you know, service providers typically have kind of a more on-prem traditional kind of deployment option. And, it's this feedback basically tells us that, security is still an issue. So I think in general, these results match to what we're hearing.
Okay, great. Matt, any thoughts on these results?
I think not surprising with the security and privacy. That's, like I've mentioned a couple times already, I think that's something that's going to continue to be at the forefront. That's not going away. I would be interested to know what some of the other concerns folks had that answered it, none of the above. 14% is a fairly big number there. Generally makes sense.
Okay, great. Right, let's go on to our last section here. And in fact, for our last two questions, we asked where AI workloads reside today and then also in the next 5 years. The results showed the majority of businesses are planning to deploy AI in a hybrid combination of on and off-premise data centers. The results also suggest that there is a shift from on-premises to an enterprise data centers towards off-premises solutions. So that would include co-location data centers and edge data centers. So Matt, are you seeing similar trends in the market?
Yeah, I think absolutely we are. This is really not too surprising here that we're seeing a big move happening in the hybrid environment, with 44% utilizing it today, moving to 54 in the next 5 years. There's also big moves in the colo and edge data center areas on this slide. And these are all trends that we're seeing on a daily basis with our industry. And a big reason why we're seeing more M&A in our industry, and really one of the reasons American Tower purchased CoreSite at the end of 2021, to ensure they were positioned to take advantage of that hybrid deployment model between edge, core, and cloud architectures, and how those are all going to work together harmoniously in a customer's network. Customers are using the hybrid model to, improve their network performance, their efficiency, get better cost allocation, and then ultimately, like we talked about before, reducing their latency. So this is kind of very much in line with what we've been seeing.
Okay, great. So let's go on to Ayo. What are you seeing in this area?
So I think what I'm definitely seeing here is that the industry is maturing in terms of AI deployment choices. So traditionally, we've seen pretty much a centralized type of deployment. But then I think what we're seeing is this evolution that over time, as the use cases and also the business models evolve, the deployment will become hybrid, right? Where there'll be that choice made to distribute perhaps closer to the end users at the edge. And that is reflected, I guess, but the answers we hear that there's a lot of edge center type of deployment. But I think in general going forward, it'll be kind of a flexible, fluid system, right? Where customers will make decisions for given use cases where to best deploy. And so it'll be more of a hybrid approach. So we're pretty much in alignment with these responses.
Okay, great. And going on now to this last slide, the last result anyway. What we did is we broke out the results for mobile only, and that actually shows an even more significant shift from on-premises to off-premises, and a very significant increase in the expected use of edge data centers. I guess, Ayo, perhaps you can expand on what you're seeing there.
Yeah, so I think definitely seen an increase in the expected use of edge in the mobile area. I think it's two things. So first is the opportunity to do the AI inferencing at the edge to ensure that you could take advantage of the quick reaction times due to the low latency. And then also, very importantly, to minimize the amount of data that is transported across the network. I think that's one part. The second part is about the training of the data at the edge. I think that's definitely also an opportunity, though it will be, I guess, use case specific. There'll be some use cases that would benefit from actually when you do the training at the edge, and others will benefit from when it's done centrally. So that will be a trade-off based on the use case.
Okay, and Matt, what are your thoughts? And I guess one of the things we see here is an increase in co-location data center use from 28% to 52%.
Yeah, and then a big, kind of reduction on that central data center one. So that top one, there's massive moves and pulling back from on-prem and moving to the colo and edge strategies. With mobile, I think we will see more of kind of the mobile edge or the far edge at tower sites that will really begin to take advantage, as we see more of the emergence of 5G going forward. with 5G and some of these other technologies, we really haven't even scratched the surface of what they're capable of. So I think we're going to see kind of more and more of, kind of what we're seeing on this slide here take place in the coming years.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for your thoughts on these results. Just before we go on to the Q&A session, I'd just like to take a few moments to conclude with a look at some of the key findings from the survey and the webinar. So we've certainly seen that AI usage is growing rapidly, and that for the companies surveyed, the top benefits are better customer experience and retention, improved network performance, and opportunities for new revenues and cost savings. We've also seen that low latency networks, interconnections, and cloud networking are critically important for businesses, AI infrastructure architecture, and that AI and ML is significant for 5G deployments. AI require some specific processing capabilities to achieve the best results, and therefore service providers are likely to need some assistance with their AI strategies. And the majority of businesses are planning to deploy AI in a hybrid combination of on and off premises data centers, although there is this shift that we were talking about towards off premises locations, particularly for mobile network operators. And just before we go to the Q&A session, we've had a few questions come in about this survey. The main results from the survey are in a white paper, and that you can download from the resources widget on the platform for the webinar today. Okay, so let's go on now to our Q&A. We've had some questions come in already, but if you've got any more questions, please do send those in. I'm going to go initially to AO, although Matt may want to come in on this one as well. So for reducing latency in AI ML network, is there opportunity for improvements in the fiber to reduce latency, or is the latency really entirely in the electronics?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's a question of proximity, right? It's pretty much proximity based on distance. The closer you are to where the end user is, the lower the latency. And so, of course, the presence of fiber will definitely increase things. But I think just the fact that when you can shorten it, and I mean, imagine placing the workload on the mobile base station, right, where you basically have a very short kind of physical cable between the antenna that basically sends out the data over the air, and to the basically the edge box that executes the workload. So I think that will be probably where you'll get the most benefits, just the physical proximity between end user and the compute.
Okay, Matt, anything to add on that one?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with that statement. It's the proximity of where you're going to be processing that data, and then wherever your end users are. That's going to be the primary driver. Yes, fiber and equipment play into latency, but I think that's why that when we talk about the proximity, that's why we're seeing the results in this this survey is where customers are moving more and more off-prem and further out into the edge and into co-location facilities, because that's where their digital ecosystem is, whether it be their AI partners or end users that they need to get this data to. It's all about proximity. So I think I'm in agreement there with what AO mentioned.
Okay, great. I want to stay with you, Matt, for this next question. So the question is, how and why are customers taking advantage of hybrid deployments as opposed to an all on-premise or all in the cloud?
It goes back to that latency comment that we've talked about, right? So moving those latency-sensitive applications closer to where that's going to be processed and closer to those end users. But there's also a lot of other reasons as well. So it can come down to security, the network performance, and one of the big pieces, I think it was in the poll that was talking about cost, pricing was a big concern. So, I think that there's opportunities for large reductions in your TCO when you're moving into more of this hybrid co-location deployment, and knowing, what you can keep kind of on-prem, what you can move into the cloud, and how you connect with any other partners or vendors that you may have.
Okay, great. Going now to AO for this next question. So what efforts can be made through ecosystems and partnerships to accelerate AI ML for wireless service providers?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I think one of the key aspects of AI in the wireless service provider space is really the availability of the AI applications. And kind of in Ericsson, we recently announced our service management and orchestration offering called EIAP, which is the Ericsson Intelligent Automation Platform. And this is an open platform, and I want to stress the word open platform, which enables AI applications to be, first of all, deployed, but most importantly, to be co-created. And this co-creation can happen with the wireless service providers as well as with partners. And also that this platform allows the execution of different AI applications, both like from Ericsson as well as from third parties. And so what we see is that we'd like to kind of use this as an approach to enable our wireless service providers to take advantage of all the kind of plethora, a multitude of the different AI ML applications, but also kind of facilitate and accelerate the innovation in this space. So basically, I guess I'll really urge the community to kind of innovate on the EAIP to accelerate AI applications in the wireless service provider space.
Okay, Matt, anything to add on that question?
No, not much to add on that one. I think it's covered.
Okay, great. So let's go to you for this question. So how are customers utilizing and leveraging AI resources within public cloud providers?
So all the different cloud providers, whether it be Google Cloud, AWS, Microsoft Azure, Oracle Cloud, and there's a number of private cloud applications out there as well. Most of them have some sort of AI applications that they are offering to their end users. So it varies a little bit by cloud provider, but then it comes down to how are you connecting to those clouds, right? Are you goes back to some of that proximity question. Are you connecting to them over the public internet? Are you getting more of a direct connect into them? And it's going to come down to that network performance. So yes, they may have these applications, but if you have latency sensitive workloads that you're putting in there, not only do you have to look at, what it is that the cloud provider is offering, but then how you're connecting into them. And there's many different options, like I said, whether it be over the public internet or more of a direct connect model through, a colo provider or some other provider that you are utilizing.
Okay, great. Ayo, anything to add on that one?
I think I 100% agree with what Matt said. The only maybe extra thing I would add is, of course, that as Matt rightly said, the cloud providers definitely have a lot of AI solutions and implementations. But something just to note, like when using them, is that, of course, it's also a question of competence in the organization to leverage those capabilities. And as we saw in the responses, competence was kind of, data science competence was like a key challenge. So like when you have that multitude of different options, it's like you need to kind of make that choice, because the reverse is that you need to be able to develop across different cloud environments. So I think that's definitely something that service providers need to kind of take into consideration.
Okay, great. Some really good points there again. So that actually brings us to the end of the webinar today. So thank you for attending today's presentation, Service Provider AI Survey 2022 Results, Accelerating AI Deployment in Data Centers and Mobile Networks. And that's brought to you by Light Reading, CoreSite, and Ericsson. And on behalf of our speakers today, Met Zenderhout from CoreSite and Ao Damola from Ericsson, and myself, Simon Stanley, thanks for your time and have a great day.
Thanks.